Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Almost 30 podcast. This is a special episode. We are dropping an episode on a Wednesday, which I don't think we've ever done. Feels fun. So 3 new episodes this week. We wanted to just drop some gifts as we enter the holiday season. We wanted to rerun some of our favorite episodes from our most impactful favorite guests. Yes, we play favorites here. No, we absolutely adore our guests, but there are just some episodes that Krista and I and our community still talk about to this day. Our guest for today is John Wineland, who has been on the podcast many times. He's been on the podcast 4 times. The first time was episode 96. We're not going to air that one today. There's no video of that that exists. But that one I highly recommend going back to just for not only John's wisdom, but to laugh at Krista and myself, who are totally different people. That was probably almost 7-8 years ago now, which is insane. But John is an incredible teacher, one that we have admired from the beginning of Almost 30, who has been a guiding light in our personal relationships. And I just adore him. So he is a world-renowned author, speaker, and teacher leading men and women in the realms of embodied leadership, masculine, feminine polarity, and sacred intimacy. He hosts retreats and workshops around the world. He is a teacher who is truly doing his own work alongside his work with other people, which I think makes an incredible teacher. And he really believes that sacred intimacy is a lifelong journey. You know, this isn't just like one and done and then you're good. But it is really a process of failure and recommitment and being able to do that over and over and over with people that you are in deep, intimate relationship with. I remember when John was on the podcast in episode 96, again, go back and listen to that if you want to listen. I remember I was dating my butt off at the time. I was in LA. I was single. I was kind of in the thick of my quote sacredness of being single season. I don't think I had deemed it sacred yet. So I was dating around like bonkers. I was, sleeping with people, and literally John said to me, he's like, you shouldn't let anyone in, literally in, if you don't feel like they truly see you. And it's not just like look in your eyes and like give you that like, oh my God, I can't be without you feeling. It's more like, do they see you for who you really are? That like really grounded, embodied, like, I can hold you. I can hold all of you emotionally, physically, spiritually. And that, I will never ever forget that. That changed the course of my dating life, because I realized there was like so many energetic imprints on me during that time. And I was letting people in who really didn't deserve my love and attention and time and energy. I was just so desperately wanting to be chosen, and I was choosing the wrong people who had no time for me. It was a hurricane of sorts. And John just was such a wise friend, is such a wise friend. And so I really took his advice, that and many other pieces of advice, to heart during that season. And I really believe his work helped me to enter into that sacred part of my single season, to really take it seriously. And so all that to say, this episode today, I'm incredibly excited about. It's episode 536. So it's actually one of the more recent episodes with John. So let me give you his past episodes: 96, 144, and 327. Write those down, have them ready to go. But today's episode is 536. And in this episode, he's talking to Krista about some of his core teachings. So the masculine and feminine dynamics in relationships, which I think is something that's become um, not overplayed, but like we kind of have lost the plot on like what that actually means. So super interesting conversation about that. The importance of balancing both the masculine and feminine within the individuals in the relationship, nervous system regulation and co-regulation concepts and what that actually looks like in relationship. Because I think we can hear these practices and then to actually do them ourselves in relationship feels weird. So he's kind of demystifying that. The masculine as container and feminine as ocean. I love this concept. I think you're going to as well, and you're going to relate to it, especially if you're a woman out there listening to this. And then the quote arsenal and favorite lessons that, I feel like Krista and I have shared with you all, and we share it with John. We also talk. They also talk about men learning to express emotions versus holding space for others' emotions, what that looks like, how they can do that in the best way possible. The heart liberation that men can achieve in a relationship, what that looks like. And we talk about his new book, From the Core, which is no longer new, but really about the crisis of masculine identity and moving away from toxic patriarchy and the role of the conscious man in society today. So I'm really, really, really excited to rerun this episode. Thank you all for listening. We wanted to gift you these episodes and just remind you that the Almost 30 archive is insanely chock full of episodes like this that are timeless, that have wisdom that you can use today, that have guests whose work I believe at the time and continue to just really change the course of how we relate to one another, how we be in the world. So I'm really excited. If you haven't gotten into John Wineland's work, this might be the moment. So again, this is episode 536 with John Wineland, and this is the rerun. But honestly, I love listening back to episodes because I get new things from episodes when I listen to them more than once. So I hope you do too. We love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. You can learn more about Almost 30 at almost30.com. We have our new book out now, available anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, local bookstores. I'm so thankful to everyone who has supported us in this book process, but it's a great gift for the holiday season, a great gift for yourself, for your friends, anyone moving through a season of change. I love you. Okay, we'll see you on the other side.
I'm a pain in the ass.
100%.
I am a tough person to be in a
How?
relationship with.
How?
Well, I think because of what I believe
Yeah.
in and what I stand for relationally, I'm a stand for that,
Mhm.
and so I can be a bit militant's not the right word,
Mhm.
since astrology, Mars and
Mhm.
Virgo, right?
Mhm.
So I'm sort of militant about devotion,
Mhm.
and I also crave a lot of freedom.
Mhm.
I also need a lot of space just to
Mhm.
kind of process what I do. So it tends to be, this dichotomy of like heavy devotional experience when we're together, and then I need a lot of space, and
Mhm.
sometimes that's hard for people.
Mhm. Like if they don't have a secure attachment, they're like, okay,
That's a good way to put
where
it.
did I go?
That's a good
Where
way
are
to
we
put it.
going?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are we going? And plus, the work I do requires just a tremendous amount of processing.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm kind of eating people's shadows all day
Yes.
long, right? And so it fucks with me a little bit
Mhm.
for a few days afterwards,
Mhm.
and maybe sometimes even longer.
Mhm.
And I've been on this jag of teaching for the last 3 or 4 months.
Mhm.
And so it weighs on me, and
Mhm.
I just need extra time of
Mhm.
like no demand and no, and so that's
Mhm.
hard if I'm asking somebody to, give me a week or 2 weeks where I have to teach really intensely, and then I'm done, and I'm kind of
Mhm.
a zombie and clearing out lots of
Mhm.
people's stuff from my
Mhm.
nervous system, and so it takes a real commitment.
I don't know if people know until they're in the work, but I didn't realize that till we started doing retreats, and I was like, whoa, afterwards
Yeah.
I needed 3 days alone
Yeah.
to totally be
Yeah.
in my, and I realized how much I was lacking an energetic sovereignty that I
Mm,
really was able to see clearly,
mm,
where I was very much like, "Are you having a good time? I need
mhm.
to take on your energy, make sure you're having a good
Right.
time." And it's it's very, unless you know it, it's very hard to explain. But that was even something that I wanted to talk about today, was like the space of no demand, which I
Mm,
think is so beautiful that you were
mm,
talking about recently, is how we don't often have a place where we have no to-dos,
mm,
no demands.
mm,
And I felt like that post was really powerful. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
mm. Yeah. Well, I think the masculine in all of us,
Mhm.
right? Doesn't gender is not doesn't matter here. Women are really finding this out, right?
Mhm.
The more that you're taking on, the more you're purpose driven, the more you're right. The more that part of you that needs to be in a space of no demand needs feeding.
Mhm.
And um, so the space of no demand is just this place where you don't have to attend to anybody,
Mhm.
but the flow of whatever the moment is. Where I see this happening a lot with men. I don't know if it's the same for women. It might be slightly different. Maybe you can tell me, but it's this being out in a space of high energetic frequency, like nature,
Mhm.
right? And going into a space of nature where there's a lot of flow towards without any demand out. So that's why men get such a hard on for going into nature
Mhm.
because um, they can go sit on a lake or sit in a forest or sit on a mountain. They could receive that transmission of just pure,
Mhm.
unadulterated, natural
That's like the
beauty.
feminine too,
It
right?
is totally. It's this
Mhm.
feminine, yeah. So she is very generous out of nature, yet demands nothing
Yeah.
from you. And so, of course, human beings are different, right? But that's the thing that I think a lot of men miss, especially is they don't do that. Now you add what we did last week in Bayul, you add other men that you love and trust to that, and you get this sort of supercharged nutritional experience where there's play. I mean, we were up in the mountains. We hiked like almost 8 miles up
Mhm.
to this lake, 40 guys butt naked, swimming in an alpine lake, just laughing and having such a beautiful time and just so much trust for each other. And then we got out of that lake and I just had them sit there in silence for 20 minutes, right? Just like feeling each other in silence and and at the end they were like, "No, we want to stay. We can
Mhm.
just stay here." Like they could have stayed there for another 2 hours. And the reason is that dopamine gets created for men in particular. This is a biological thing in a space of no demand with other men around. Just like estrogen
Hmm.
and oxytocin gets created when women are in a space of connection together, right? Like the red tent,
Mhm.
right?
I was just saying this yesterday about
Yeah,
the red
yeah.
tent.
So the red tent
Yeah.
creates oxytocin, women together touching each other. I mean, they're rarely sitting silently.
Yeah.
Whereas dudes will sit, if you give them the option, they will sit looking at nature silently. And and that's how they dopamine gets created. And dopamine is a precursor to testosterone. So it allows them to kind of step back into the world or back into relationship from a place of being filled. So the space of no demand, if women could really understand that it's a space where men can be filled up again so that they can come back,
Mhm.
more able to relate. I think but a lot of guys don't set it up that way, or they
For
go out to the
sure.
mountains and they party, or you know what I mean? They don't actually set themselves up to receive the natural flow.
Mhm.
When they do, it's magic.
Yeah, I can't think of the opportunity, and I want to talk about this. So why is it, I guess, but why do the men need to be with other men
Mm,
if they're receiving the nourishment from the feminine, which in this case is nature,
yeah,
the ultimate feminine,
yeah.
why the importance of having the other men around?
Hmm. That's a good question. I don't, some of this stuff is work that's been done by John Gray.
Mhm.
He did this work on the different biologies, right?
Mm.
And I think it's valuable from this point of view,
Yeah.
right? Just the way that we work biologically, men and women. Now things are shifting, right? People are becoming much more gender fluid,
Yeah.
and who knows what that's the difference that's making in their hormonal
Yeah.
balances or how things get. I don't know that, and that I think will be an interesting study. But there is, my theory is, and what I've seen is that men being out in nature with each other, there is this natural texture of masculine love that just
Yeah.
emerges, right?
Mhm.
That is often missing.
Mhm.
I mean, maybe you see it, playing sports together. Maybe you
Oh
see
yeah,
it
it's
in
so
the military.
beautiful.
Yeah,
I'm like jealous of it.
It is very
Because
beautiful.
it's
Yeah.
I'm jealous of the disagreement.
Mm,
I'm
mm,
jealous of
mm,
like the lack of filter.
mm,
I'm jealous of like
mm.
the foundational trust that you can go there,
Yeah.
when in a lot of places that if you're going there, that ruptures the feminine
Mm.
because of the sensitivity.
Yeah.
It like
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah,
intoxicating.
yeah. No, men will get
Men will
really.
rip.
They will rip. They'll rip. They'll support each other. They'll go deep with each other. The night before we did this, journey into the lake, they were doing taboo work together, right? Where three men were holding one man as he expressed, some kind of texture of sexual taboo, which is a very, vulnerable thing for
Very.
men to do.
Mhm.
But they were so generous
Mm.
and so loving and so supportive of each other. And so guys were able to go really deeply with other men, just in a place of revealing, not creating polarity, that would be difficult for them to go with women, because it's very, some masculine taboos are very taboo.
Yes, yes,
Very
100%.
taboo. Some feminine ones too, let me tell you. So I think, to answer your question, there's a hunger for men for that texture of
Mhm.
masculine love that is like to be fully seen, to
Mhm.
receive like play,
Mhm.
like just to play
Yeah.
together. They're like boys, and men get to be boys, and they also get to be deep, and they get to have this full experience, which is
Mhm.
why I love men's programs so much, men's group so much, because they get to have this full experience from play to deep conscious silence
Mhm.
to challenge, right? There's just a whole spectrum of things. And I think that what it does is it fulfills a set of needs that men aren't even aware
Yeah.
that they have,
Mhm.
right? This is true of women too, just most human experiences, like we're so tied to the phone
Mhm.
and to technology and to sort of instant kind of distraction, that we don't realize we have these needs to be seen at a very deep level, to be felt at a very deep level, until we're in it and we're like, fuck,
Mhm.
wow, like where has this been all my life?
Mhm.
And that's what I see a lot in men.
I'm curious about the taboo thing. Like, do you feel like, so when I hear that, men supporting other men in a really, in a very vulnerable space, like I perceive that men would be able to support men in that taboo around sexuality
Mhm.
because they know the fruits of sexuality. Like it feels like they understand that the pinnacle of this expression would lead us to a place where we as men understand that we have taboo wants and
Mm.
needs.
Mhm.
And like, I'm curious if in your work, do you do things that are more around like, because that it seems very vulnerable, but
Yeah.
there's a part of that where it's like, because it's tied to sexuality, we know that as men, we're interested in sexuality. So we understand that the fruits of this will be orgasm. So we understand that like this is something that we
Like,
want to be
you're talking about the ROI. They're like, hey,
Yes.
we'll go there because there's an ROI.
Yes. And we understand that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it would be harder to get them to be opening up about things that were much more close to the heart rather than close to the heart and the penis?
Well, I actually, the taboo stuff, I mean,
Tell me more.
Yeah, the taboo stuff actually is
Reframe me.
very vulnerable, because think about the thing that the part of your sexuality that you're both turned on by and ashamed of.
Yeah.
Right? It's a very vulnerable place for a man to reveal.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that there's just as much heart as there is sort of turn on in the taboo experience. But the point I always try to make is that the thing that so when we do a taboo, I'll give you a little context here. Do not try this at home. Do not try this at home, please. can go really wrong. So you write do not try this with your partner. Write a taboo, write a taboo scene. And I do this with the women's groups too, because I run women's groups, right? Write a taboo scene, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Go for it. Just let yourself be wild. Let whatever wants to happen, happen. And then they read it to a group of women, or a group of men. And in that, they determine what's the nutrient that they're getting from the taboo. So, for example, for men, a nutrient that they'll often really want is power, to be dominant in a certain sort of way and to be surrendered to in a certain sort of way. I mean, this kind of stuff. For women, it's often to be taken in a certain way, right? So there's tons of abduction taboos and, multiple partner taboos. And you can go there. Women will often go much darker than men.
I can imagine.
But in every taboo, there is a nutrient. There's something that your heart is craving, whether it's to be forced into surrender, whether it's to be washed with feminine energy, whether it's to be worshipped, once you boil down the taboo experience, there's a really beautiful piece of nutrition there. And that's something that men do realize, hey, I can find a way to work this into my sex with my partner. You know what I mean? And then the other piece is who you have to be in order to make that scene sacred. So the two pieces that they get from this, who would you have to be in order to, allow yourself to be forced into surrender, right? Or who would you have to be surrendered to in a certain way? You'd have to be wide and you'd have to be grounded and your heart would have to be open. And so this texture of embodiment that a man would have to bring to a taboo scene to make it sacred and not just this lascivious kind of piggish thing is this really beautiful embodied texture. That texture, the whole world is wanting from him. Right? That texture, if you take it out, and I do this every time, I'm like, hey, would the world enjoy him more this way? Not just for the taboo, but the world? And it's almost always yes. Yeah. Same thing for the women. So the taboos are these beautiful portals into the things that our soul is craving sexually and emotionally, and who the world is secretly wanting more of because somehow when we were young, we shut it down. Because somebody told us it was shameful or it was bad or it was, Yeah.
So with, our audience, I guess, what if they want to just explore this on their own?
We just jumped right into the deep end
here. Of course. Yeah, I know. Here we are. So with and even thinking about myself as an exploratory thing, I've been thinking about that a lot more about, my deep desires. What is the core feeling that I'm looking for within them and how can I cultivate that in my relationship? How can I, and I even will do the thought of, okay, I'm having this somatic experience of the core feeling that I'm wanting to experience.
Right.
And then how can I then picture my husband and meld it in where I have this memory of his face and then that feeling. But what would you say for mostly our women audience as a suggestion for them if they want to explore taboos on their own?
Yeah, well, I would start with desire, right? Because desire is a real easy place to start.
Yep.
But to get into, and I do this a lot with the women's work we do, and I think I even have a master class, so maybe I'll have Jen send it to you because it goes through a whole process, and the whole process
There's always a master class.
There's always a master class. Yeah. I just started that this year, so. The idea is to literally go into your heart. So if a common desire I'll hear from women is to be ravished, totally ravished into dust, right? Ravished into mindlessness, some version thereof, right? So that desire is very visceral. You can feel it. Yeah. So if you go into your heart and you literally drop into the walls of your heart, the texture of your heart, and you feel that desire to be ravished into dust, into mindlessness, and you just allow it to steep in your heart, feels good, right? Feels good. There's no grasping. from that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if I was to put you in front of a partner, your husband, right, and have you guys practice, and you just really felt that, and then let it spread through your chest and spread into your abdomen, and you started to move from that place and look at him from that place, you wouldn't have to say anything. He would naturally be magnetized into giving you that. So it's almost like you become she who must be ravished. Right? And there's a shape. Like she who must be ravished has a shape. Right? Just like he who must be trusted has a shape. And teaching men and women to get into that shape and then, relate and exchange energy from that shape is the way to do it. So for your audience, I would say practice feeling, like going into the desire, really feeling the desire. Now, you could do this as solo sexual practice. You could actually do this making love with your partner. They don't even need to know. And you just drop into it. The problem is when we get attached to how the desire needs to be fulfilled. That's the disconnect. So the desire itself is the solution, not the meeting of the desire, if that makes sense.
Because it's like our brain, it's almost like our body has the emotional experience and the hormones and chemicals are created. And then our body is sort of laying over that, like how we would be able to meet that. And that's almost where the taboo is created, where it's like, this is the ultimate manifestation from my mind's eye of how this somatic body, heart experience will be solved.
Well, it starts internally, right? It starts internally. And so you solve it, let's say, internally by feeling it fully. And then you're right. Your body starts to create hormones. It'll start to kick off serotonin and oxytocin and estrogen. It'll start to literally fill your bloodstream with sex hormones, right? As you imagine, as you really feel this, like what ravishment would look like. And then that immediately evokes something different from your partner. Right? Evoke something different from your partner. But the moment you start like grabbing towards them, or rather than like inviting them into the experience with you, you start to grasp for them, the experience changes, because then it becomes a lack. Like I need to be filled with this versus I am filled in this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
And it's much more attractive.
Oh yeah.
It's much more attractive to.
Does the man have to be conscious for this to happen?
No. This
He'll
can all
just,
be.
Like, it'll be natural.
He'll just feel it. He'll just feel like, what is going on with her? I want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to pull her hair. I want to drink her blood. I don't know, whatever it is, right? I'm something.
How'd you know, John?
And it's an interesting thing that I see in workshops a lot, where people can communicate desires by feeling them fully. Where we run into trouble is we don't want to actually take the trouble, like you dropped into your heart, you closed your eyes, I could feel you, you went into it. We don't want to do that work. We want just someone, give me a pill,
100%.
Do me.
Yep.
Right? And so that's, I think, the shift that people, once they make it, it's so obvious. And once they see the reaction in their partner, it's so delicious. So the taboo piece, I mean, desire is usually, let's call it just a little, desire to be ravished is one way. Taboo would be the darkest version thereof.
Yeah.
If I was going to oversimplify it, right? So how would you, like, if you just let yourself go, how would you want to be ravished in this particular way? And then be in that. But you can, once you know these kinds of things, you can play with them in your relationship. It's not like you're, going to set up an abduction scene, Although I've seen that. No, people can do that. And that's a way to work with sexuality that's safe and beautiful and nourishing.
We were talking with Aubrey Marcus for our interview, and he was saying how Esther Perel says to keep that novelty, you can wear wigs and like dress up and stuff. He's like, I don't know if that's it for me. And it's like, because it's so energetic. It's like if someone's in the same energetic but in a wig, you're almost like, what?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I could take it. It's all different energy. You could dress a certain way. You could dress differently. You could, how would she who must be ravished dress, right? And that's your art, So
Mhm.
one it could be a special robe. It could be, I don't know,
Yeah. Nipple tassels.
some slutty
Slutty
outfit that
outfit.
just makes you feel great. Like,
Yes.
can be any of that.
Yeah.
And for men, this idea of I usually do this experiment with clients where I'll say, hey, go home and just measure how long it takes to evoke a response from her. So, like, he who must be trusted completely,
Yeah.
right? He's grounded. He's breathing into his belly. His heart's soft. His eyes are soft. There's a width, right?
Mhm.
And there's an unconditional love or worship, or, like, he doesn't want anything from you. It's just a complete recognition. And you take that home and you just, meet your wife in the kitchen and, like, start talking to her from that place, or looking at her from that
Mhm.
place, and literally time how long it takes for her to, like, smile or
Mhm.
touch you or come near you,
Mhm.
right? And it's usually a couple minutes, if
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
It's very short amount of time if you're really in it.
Mhm.
So we can evoke the power we have to evoke, states from our partners is really unbelievable and
Mhm.
very under utilized.
Mhm.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah. Yeah, I wanna talk I'm excited about the book too, and
Mm.
I think there's so much we can go into about that, and I feel like this is, like, such a perfect book for a perfect time by a perfect author.
Thanks.
And it really felt like the right arc for you, the right for
Mm,
us, and it was a topic that I've been wanting to explore for a long time.
mm,
And at almost 30, we hate men. We wanna bash men as
mm,
much as possible. No, I'm just kidding. We
mhm,
are men lovers, and we
mhm,
are open to a conversation of, like, how can we have more of a cosmic balance
mm.
rather than kind of, like, take the power back, and then we're
Yeah,
sort of in the position where the feminine is just, like, now in power because we've stripped it away from the masculine.
yeah.
More of, like, an invitation is needed. So, what do you think has been the journey for us to get to this place where it feels like, as a culture, masculinity is, like, bad and it's shameful
Mm,
and it needs to be extinct?
yeah, yeah. Um, well, the patriarchy and
Mhm.
masculinity are very intimately linked,
Yeah.
right? Historically,
Mhm.
right? And when you break down the word patriarchy, it really just means, like, protection,
Mm, mm.
right? But the way that the church used
Yes.
it in the
Mhm.
1500s, and the way that it was used for manifest destiny, and the history of oppressing, slavery and women, and
Mhm.
so so part of what we need to do is to tease apart patriarchy, the historical masculine values or traits, right?
Mhm.
Which have been associated with dominance, winning, right? Um, and create a new paradigm, which is what I'm hoping to do, and other people are doing it too. It's just my attempt, right? A new paradigm where the values, the core masculine values, are around things like liberation
Mhm.
and presence and depth
Mhm.
and warmth. You know what I mean? There's a certain level of a retraining for men to begin to understand that winning,
Mhm.
and you can ask anybody who's successful. I'm sure Aubrey would agree here. Anybody
Mhm.
who's successful, who's won, will be, and is masculine in general, will be like, okay,
Mhm.
you know, I made a couple $1,000,000. Wow, that's not it. That's not it. So winning, dominating is this kind of, the patriarchy is about controlling, this might not make a lot of sense, but patriarchy is about controlling the feminine, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Dominating nature,
Mhm.
dominating women, dominating,
Yes.
right? Right.
Mhm.
The new
Mhm.
paradigm of uh, masculine practice should be about
Mhm.
liberating love, liberating consciousness, liberating ecstasy, liberating, right?
Mhm.
Liberating the feminine. So for that to happen, there has to be an internal union of masculine and feminine. So a big part of the book is I'm trying to get men to understand what their feminine is,
Mm.
how to amplify it, and then how to integrate it. Right. So if we were going to be super simple, we would say awareness, let's just call the masculine awareness, right? And the feminine energy. So each of us has unlimited amounts of both, right? We can keep gesturing towards more awareness. We can keep cultivating more life force. Let's call it life force, right? And the combination of awareness and vitality creates a very deep, grounded presence that that doesn't hunger for power the way that something that a fear-driven, which is what the patriarchy was driven by, right? Fear of women, fear of other people's, fear of other, right? I mean, so the patriarchy is fear-driven. I mean, people will often deny that, but
Yeah.
I believe that the desire to dominate is based on fear of there not being enough, and so if you're full because you're so filled with life force and so connected to awareness, the deep, infinite space of awareness, then your natural tendency, the natural human, especially the natural masculine tendency, will be to love and to liberate. And so we'll liberate with presence, we'll liberate with play, we'll liberate with sex, we'll liberate, right? We'll naturally just want to liberate. And that's what I've seen in my work. That's what I've seen in men who like really take this seriously. So that's what I'm hoping people will start to gravitate towards. And I think it's happening. I mean, this whole, I don't know, when we spoke, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, literally.
Like all these men's groups that were, they were just starting.
Yeah.
Now you throw a fucking rock and there's a men's group somewhere, which is great. Right? Yeah. So I don't know if that answered your question, but it gave some context.
It did. And there was something a lot interesting you said, but I'm curious about the decision to, and I know you do more in the book, but you mentioned heal the feminine within men. So why would it be heal the feminine instead of heal the masculine?
Well, okay, because that's a great question, because the masculine, the pure masculine in men is whole and complete. So there's no healing needed. Consciousness is whole and complete. There's no healing needed. Emptiness is whole and complete. There's nothing needed. It's our feminine. It's our emotional bodies. It's our it's our intuitive bodies. It's our desires. These are all the aspects of the feminine within any human, not necessarily just men. So if you buy this framework, like some people might not like this framework, but this is the yin and the yang. This is old. I'm not coming up with it. David Data didn't come up with it. It's been around for years, right? So the feminine is where a man's feminine, as we're talking about men, is normally where the trouble starts, because they don't know how to control it. They don't know how to control their emotions. They don't know how to control their desires. They don't know how to be with the emotional experience of others. So they'll try to dominate versus feel, right, and liberate. So here's a good example. So think of a dad, right? You got a 4-year-old kid, doesn't want to go to bed. Okay, so the toxic masculine will say, "Get to bed. I'm telling you now. You can get a spanking." That's the toxic masculine. The sort of more healthy masculine would try to reason, like, if you don't get to bed early, you're going to be tired in the morning. We've got a big day. We're going to Disneyland. You don't want to be tired. We'll try to reason with the feminine, right? In the form of a 4-year-old child. And we know how that often goes. But the sort of sacred masculine will pick the kid up, blow on his stomach, like carry him into bed, wrestle him into bed, they'll probably be laughing and loving. By the time the kid hits the bed, his heart's wide open and he feels totally loved. And the capacity to do that, whether it's with, a workshop, a romantic partner, a child, is your capacity to elevate above and beyond patterns to dominate, patterns to, right? And so it's kind of falls into the category of shepherding your own feminine. It's the way I talk about it in the book. And that just means bringing awareness, breath, ground to your emotional body, energetic body, so that you can make choices that liberate versus dominate.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because I remember when you talked, it's like the feminine or the masculine almost seems like it's the tussling where it's like the play. So I guess how in that example is that feminine and not masculine?
Well, anything that's energetic. So,
Yes.
this we can get.
I'm stuck on the labels.
Yeah. And it's okay. It's cool because we're trying to understand the polarities. Think of it this way: that anything that's energetic is the feminine, right? But awareness on how to use the energy of our bodies is our masculine. So our awareness, meaning if you're aware, for example, you get home, right? And you're aware that your partner's just had a shit day and needs just stroking and loving and right. So you walk into the house and you're feeling, oh, he needs this, right? He needs this. The part of you that is aware that he needs that is your own masculine. The part of you that gives that is the feminine. What level you give that? Like, do you give a lot? Do you give a little? Do you come in hot? Do you come in slow? Do you come in fast? Do you wear this? Do you wear this? Like, all those things are functions of awareness. And awareness in all of us is our masculine. The capacity, the energetic realm is our feminine. Ultimately, the best practice is a fully expanded and expanded awareness and a fully expanded energetic capacity, where what we normally see is a lot of energy with very little awareness. And this is the difference, right? So you know, a lot of energy, like just giving energy from whatever. I'm going to blast her with this. I'm going to blast him with that. I'm going to react. I'm going to blow up. That's just tons of energy with no awareness. Whereas awareness requires meditation, breath, slowing down, like to really tap into awareness. And those are the skill sets that I think anybody who wants to cultivate more masculine, women or men or whoever, you need to use. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
it's a different yoga.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? So
yeah, with the,
but ultimately, Krista, you want both, like fully, like you want like incredible amounts of awareness and width and connection to consciousness, and you want the capacity to express or feel fully. And when those things are unified in a human being, we see them as extraordinary artists. Like, think of any great actor. Prince is a good example. You know, any great musician, right? Beyonce. You know, I mean, you could feel they have this ability to bring both.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, do you feel like? Because I've also noticed too within the patriarchy and even sort of this shift that is happening or has happened over the years, that it's not only affecting men negatively, but it's also affecting women negatively. And, you know, obviously we'll speak to the negative aspects of it because there's also a lot of beautiful, for the most part, more so beautiful things happening within both polarities. But for the women, it's like almost like where capitalism gets inserted in both the patriarchy and when we're talking about the feminist movement, because then it becomes our sole organizing principle is money and power rather than love and truth. So have you noticed that too, where women are just completely burnt out and like nervous systems are just awry?
Well, you think that, I mean, look, and here I am, a guy, you know, critical of feminism, and I'm not, right? Feminism needed to happen. It should have happened the way it happened. There needed to be parity and equality in workplace. But really what happened is that women cultivated their masculine capacities for equality of power and, you know, and accumulation, let's call it, right? And so they hit that level, not understanding that those skills, although really powerful in the workplace and totally needed in the workplace, would not translate into relationship, right? That they wouldn't have the same impact in areas of the heart. So yeah, so basically feminism just elevated the toxic masculine in women. And I'm sure I'll get some hate mail for that. But
No.
really, and what I'm seeing now, and Kendra Kunoff, who's a dear friend of mine, said it so beautifully. She's like, the next wave of feminism will celebrate the feminine
100%.
versus just women, right? The elevation of the feminine, which in men, in women, is much more about flow, love, worship, you know what I mean? And those were not part of the first wave of feminism. But I think women now recognize that these are traits that have a lot of value.
Yeah, and I want to acknowledge I could even sense that fear, and that's what's hard in these situations when you kind of are around topics like that, where you're like, there's a supercharged conversation about this, and I'm a person that, from the perception, believes that I should not be talking about this, but it's related to all of us, and I've seen it within the community and just sort of observed that it's caused women to be just completely out of their bodies and unhappy.
Yeah.
And, the solution isn't for every single woman to be someone that's going to stay at home, barefoot, have kids, but the solution is to be in a more balanced state where it's more about, where we're not applying the principles of toxic masculinity, where it's like power, CEO, burn the stake at both ends, where it's not
80-hour
that.
work weeks. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It's like, it's wild. But do you find that when you're working with men, and
which is why you'll see, I'm sure you see this, Chris, they're like, and this happens in my groups, which is why by 40, most women who've lived that for 10 years, those are the women that show up in my groups and don't understand why they've achieved financial freedom. They could have babies on their own, but they also show up like feeling very unfulfilled.
Yes.
So I think it's important that just like success for a man is not the end, is really not the path to fulfillment. It's not the same thing for a woman too, or anybody, right?
Yes.
So ultimately, we keep coming back to this idea of like, what are the traits that create real fulfillment? And there's a masculine set and a feminine set that each human can cultivate and make a palette so that we can give it as a gift. Yeah,
it is. It's like the buying into the lie that this will make you happy, the success, the money, the power, whatever. Within, or just on the point of the 40-year-old woman, or like people in the space where you're kind of on that track where you've bought into that idea of what success is, and then you're sort of looking around like, I haven't been able to have a nourishing relationship with a man. I haven't been able to feel ravished. I haven't been able to feel that nervous system comfort with being in the masculine.
Yeah.
But what happens, I'll see a lot of times too, is, and I'm curious if this is true or not, a lot of women will say like, oh, they're intimidated by you. Like men are intimidated by you. Men are, intimidated of your success, intimidated of whatever. And I think there's truth to that too. But like, what do you think? But then there's also not truth to that. So what do you think about that statement or that situation when that comes up?
That men are intimidated?
Yes.
Well, I think it just depends on what they're, if they're in the workplace, like just like, power exists in the reverse, right? So if you have a very powerful CEO who's a woman and there's one of her subordinates is a man and she's really intense and powerful in her position, he might be intimidated by her in the workplace. I don't know if that translates totally towards relational field. I think it's different in the relational field. What more often happens, I mean, I'm just digging my own grave here.
That's what I like to do. I like to make people like...
More often happens is that there's a repulsion.
Of course.
Yeah. So if he is masculine, if he is masculine, right? And this could be in a same-sex relationship, right? If he is masculine, and she's bringing a toxic masculine from the workplace to the home, he will not, there's no polarity. It's basically two alphas kind of fighting for position, so to speak, which is what I see a lot.
It's also her, and not even to hate on it, but it's like being inauthentic to herself in her own essence. And that's, from my perspective, really what it is. It's like, if you're inauthentic to what's true for you, then it's going to be, there's not going to be a match.
Well, and this is what, your generation, right? I'm sure you guys see this all the time, but your generation is kind of moving in the right direction, like moving in the direction of, okay, let's take what's been successful in terms of entrepreneurship and creativity and power and structure and all that. And then let's add this other realm of intuitive beauty and radiance and, and let's add these things, intuition, and let's now cultivate a new generation of success with this kind of deeper understanding of what success really means. For men, what I'm seeing now is they spent the last 50 years learning how to express themselves, how to go into the woods and play the drums, and how to be fully expressed, and how to flow, and they spent the last 50 so years doing that, and they're realizing like, whoa, wait a minute, that also repulses her if I'm too far in flow. Flow boys, fuck boys. I mean, you get you see it all the time. That'll repulse her. So I need to add depth. So I think there's this recalibration happening on both sides that's very healthy and hopefully gonna help people relate more fully.
Yeah, on the that flow boy, fuck boy, how can we as women tell if they're in their feminine essence or if they're in their like little boy?
Well, it might be a little both. I mean, they might just really, because flow feels good for everybody, right? I put a group of men in a flow practice and they're so happy, right? Because holding presence is effortful.
Yeah.
It takes effort at first, at least, until it's relaxed. And so you got to also think that the feminine has been, just like the masculine has been celebrated in women, the feminine has been celebrated in men a lot. And so just men have been celebrated for, being more radiant, being more beautiful, being more expressive, right? All of those things, right? Which is good. It's good. So the capacity, little boy, I think what you would probably want to discern is, can he deepen in a moment of you revealing your truth? That's how women can tell, right? Like if no matter how flowy he is, blah, 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 but when you like stop and really let your heart out, can he receive it? Can he drop into the moment? Can he drop into this breath? Can he drop into the earth and hold it? And if he can, and he can really fluidly move, because ultimately that's what we want. We want humans who move fluidly between masculine capacity and feminine capacity, regardless of where they land on the spectrum. So I don't know. I think that would be the way to test your flow boy. It's like, try to reveal something difficult. Try to reveal like an ouch, and see what he does. And if he can't manage it and he just kind of like evades it, then probably stuck in little boy. But if he can deepen with you, and chances are you have a second date.
Yeah, with it's just interesting too, like even thinking about little boy and the feminine, how so much of what we understand as feminine and what I understand as feminine is like that love, that like uninhibited love. But then how is the masculine not that, and it enables that, or what is like the perfect?
Yeah, this is a tricky definition.
Yeah.
And this definitely refers back to David Data's framework, which I take some from. Not all of it, but some I think is really valuable. And this is a piece I think is valuable. So let's say you're having an experience, right? Yeah. So you're having an experience with your partner, and there's love flowing between you guys. You're making out, or you're looking into each other's eyes, or whatever. There's an experience of love flowing between both of you. That experience, all experience, is the feminine, right? And this is Buddhism. This is ancient Taoist principles. Like, the feminine is experience. The field of awareness from which that experience emerges is the masculine. And the more we're aware of, so you have an experience, like we're having an experience now, right? But there's a part of you that knows that the experience is happening, but it isn't part of the experience. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like like witness, the witness,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
witness. It's opposite, but
Mhm.
you know, there are many witnesses, right? So
Yep.
there's the witness, and then there's what's behind the witness. And you can explore this
Mhm.
forever. The deeper you go into that place of the field of awareness, like a big sky, I like to think of it as a field of awareness, sky of awareness. The more, the more you're in your masculine essence,
Mm.
and the more that a human, man or woman, can express that infinite space. So if I feel the infinite space of consciousness that's always there, right? That never changes. It's just, it is. And if I start to express that through my eyes, through my breath,
Like,
through my body,
I
right?
can feel it.
Yeah, you can feel
It's
it.
actually crazy.
Yeah, you can feel it. Now that's masculine sexual polarity,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
That training men to be able to feel the depth of consciousness and then press it through their
Mhm.
physical body
Mhm.
is masculine sexual yoga.
Mhm.
And but it doesn't have to be sexual. It could just
Mhm.
be it's if the more that they bring that part to the relationship, the more the feminine, whether it's children or your feminine partner, the more their nervous systems can relax
Mhm.
because they feel you attached or connected to something greater than the experience of the moment,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And so the experience of the moment is always changing. It's not stable. It'll never be stable. It's beautifully unstable, but it's not. You see
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
what I'm saying?
Yes.
So teaching men to give as much attention to that space of infinite awareness and grounding and that kind of stuff as they do to experience is, I guess, my work in a nutshell.
Yeah. And that's all energetics
Totally. Energetics and awareness.
and
Like,
awareness.
yeah, bringing your aware. If I'm aware of that
Yeah.
field of awareness, I'm taking my awareness, I'm taking it off of you, or I'm taking it
Yes.
off of my thoughts, and I'm
Mhm.
putting it on the infinite.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
and it's really freeing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what meditators have been doing for millennia.
Mhm.
But the difference is that we're not in caves,
Mhm.
and I'm bringing this out of a cave, and and bringing it hopefully to my partner, and men can bring it to their partner, and
Is it the first time when you have these experiences, do you find that it's one of the first times that men are aware of energetics? Because and I've been
hmm,
like obsessed with this lately, just thinking about it's kind of the cliche, everything is energetics, everything is energy.
mm-hmm.
But when you truly realize like the subtlety of
Well, except what's not energy,
what
S-
is not.
so if you break down an atom,
Yeah.
we'll nerd out here a bit.
Okay.
So you break down an atom, and an atom is empty space
Uh-huh.
and energy.
Mhm.
So it's not all energy.
Okay.
It's
So the
like
atom's like masculine and feminine.
that's the nature of it,
Wow.
right?
Okay.
So
As above, so below, baby.
everything is everything. Like this table is electrons and protons making
Mhm.
moving, and empty space,
Yep.
right? This moment is both empty and full,
Yeah.
right? The cosmos is both filled with space
Mhm.
that never changes and stars that are exploding. So energy is the feminine, that which, just like if you think of and the more feminine there is, the more you need some kind of grounding presence. So
Yeah.
think of space, think of consciousness as the grounding presence for the energy that is the feminine in all of us.
Mhm.
Now, the more a human being is identified with energy, the flow of energy, the more they are naturally feminine. The more
Mhm.
that a human being is connected to just kind of the stillness and denseness, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
men like that. Maybe I don't know,
Mhm.
maybe your partner's like that. Like just the more they're naturally connected to the masculine.
Mhm.
So, the masculine and feminine, if you break it down into it's basically the polarity of the cosmos.
Mhm. In my personal relationship, I'll just say it. I feel like because and I'm not, like, fully in the masculine, it's not,
No.
like, really,
Mhm.
but I do feel like there have been times and places in our relationship where I have been more in the masculine, which
Mhm.
caused my partner to be in more in the feminine.
Mhm.
But I'm trying to understand, I guess, how can I know if that's his essence is a little bit more feminine? It's not like very much feminine,
Mhm.
but how do I know if his essence is more feminine or if I'm just causing him to be in the more feminine state?
Yeah. More often than not, it's the former. I mean, the latter, sorry.
Yes.
The latter, right? More often than not, it's the latter. Not always. Not always. Like, I say this in the book, like, I'm actually, because I was raised with women, because, you know what I mean? Like, I kind of about 60% on the feminine scale, right? More feminine. I had to learn masculine capacity, but left to my own devices, I would probably be much more fluid, much more kind of energetic. I'm still kind of wired, right? So I don't know where he falls on the spectrum, but if you think of polarity in it, like any two beings in a polarity together, if one goes in a certain energetic direction, the other is going to go in the opposite direction. So if you're directional, like let's drop the term masculine and feminine because they get weaponized, right?
Yeah, right.
So if you're just more directional, he's going to fall into less directional,
Yes.
right? Because if he wants harmony, right? Now, if he's heavily in his masculine and then you come in directional, then you've got two directional. That's when fights will often happen, right? You've got two masculine, right? Being directional. Or often what happens is you've got two feminine being expressive, right? So one, right, riding this wave of the polarity wave is an art. It's a fucking art. And but the first piece is to recognize, oh, I'm in the masculine when I'm telling him what to do versus being expressive, right? The difference, I think I've used this before, is, please close the window, right? Versus I'm cold, right? So I'm cold is like you're expressive, right? And then you invite him to be directional. He gets up and closes the window. And none of that is wrong. Like women should be using their masculine capacity because in large part it's better than a lot of men's masculine capacity. Just know that you can't do that and expect him to be directional at the same time.
Yes.
That's the problem that I think a lot of women run into. Yes. You want to be directional? You're better? Yes. Do it. But don't expect him or resent him for not being directional.
Yeah, I feel like that's the trend I see is that of like wanting the directional and then they're like being directional about wanting them to be directional. And then it's like this like
they send them to my workshops.
We went to your workshop.
They'll buy I bet you initiated that, right?
Yes. Oh,
so and that's what'll happen is when you can't expect him to be directional, just like he can't be totally expressed and then expect you to feel safe to express.
Yeah,
right?
I know. That's what I've realized this past year is I'm like, whoa, I need to be okay when he's expressing too. Because that's been a fear of mine. It's like if it's big expressions, rage or grief or all these things, I felt that's really scary to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, that's scary. But I'm like, how am I wanting to have that myself, but not being able to hold that of my partner?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, when we did your workshop, it was amazing because he totally was like into it. Like we were like doing the exercises. I literally shut down. He was like, surrender. He was like, surrender more. And I literally was like this. I was like, wow, this is
can be confronting.
Very.
Yeah.
I think my thing too was in front of people, feeling embarrassed.
Probably easier with women. Like if you came to a women's workshop.
Yes.
So you have a standing invitation to come to a women's workshop and practice.
I would love that. Yeah, it was. But in the book, you have a few different principles or ideas or ways in which that you want to have this healing, or you envision seeing this healing happen, or invitations for the healing to happen. And I want to talk about 3 of them a little bit more. And the first one is taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I'm sure the women listening are like, yes, bitch, take
responsibility. So again, the masculine gift is awareness, right? Think about almost every complaint you have towards your masculine partner, and it will be some place where he drops awareness. He leaves the toilet seat up. He's not feeling your feelings. He's not aware of time and space. He's not aware of his own life. It's almost always the complaint is about his lack of awareness. So just notice that, men. So when a man takes responsibility, and I'm just going to speak super heteronormatively. I apologize if this doesn't apply to everybody but this can apply to anybody, right? This can apply to a woman who wants to be the masculine in a relationship, just to make that super clear. So when the masculine partner says, I'm going to take full responsibility for the culture that we've created, right? He's basically saying to the feminine partner, I'm bringing my awareness to the entire field of our relationship, and I'm going to categorize all of the ways that I have been unconscious, uncaring, neglectful, and I'm going to bring my awareness to your heart. And I give this kind of example in the book, and I'm going to say how this my lack of awareness has hurt you, which is more awareness. So I'm basically, I'm washing you in my awareness. And then I'm also saying, here's how I'd like us to get better. So when a man does that, he immediately can reverse the polarity trend, like you're talking about, because he's just bringing a massive amount of awareness to the field of the relationship. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah.
It's like the awareness is the antidote to unawareness.
Yes.
Almost.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that too, even with apologizing, just on a very small level. Like I love apologies, and it's really because it is the awareness of the unawareness that you're really seeking.
Yeah.
You're like, wow.
But the depth of an apology. So for example, if he just says, hey, I'm sorry I was a dick last night.
Yeah.
Right? Versus, I'm sorry I said that thing that hurt you. I can imagine that made you feel ... I'm bringing more awareness to you now, and I'm laying out, how it must have impacted you. And that's going to have a much deeper experience on you than just me saying, hey, I'm sorry. Right? So when we talk about masculine practice, what we're talking about is expanding the capacity for awareness to be able to feel beyond the surface and into the core, which is the whole point of the book, right?
Another one was aligning with the sacred feminine. And I want to talk about that. How do you envision that happening? Especially if I don't see much sacred. Not I don't see much. I see sacred feminine. I'm very grateful that I'm surrounded by sacred feminine, but I don't know if we're able to really understand or see it as much as.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that when you think about the patriarchy, right? The patriarchy in all of us. Every time a man, and this is tough because I'm guilty of this, just like every time a masculine being, let's say, wants to control the expression or experience of the feminine in them, the feminine, right? It's the patriarchy. There's the patriarchy, right? So part of aligning with the sacred feminine is, and we have to recognize our own internal patriarchy, right? So when I want you to shut up, right, because you're making me feel right? That part of me that wants to control your experience or your interpretation or your expression is my internal patriarchy. Now, that doesn't mean I can't set boundaries. I should set boundaries. I could say, that's enough. I'm going to take off. I'm leaving, right? I don't want that. It's not the same thing. So aligning with the sacred feminine means to be in service to the healing of, let's say, women, right? And the feminine within, right? So the feminine, I mean, up until just 100 years ago, women were put into institutions for being too emotional, right? They were given lobotomies for being too emotional. So there's a lot of healing that needs to happen. And I argue, many will disagree, but I argue that part of the modern man's responsibility is to take responsibility for the sins of our fathers. We're here. We're the ones, in it now. And part of doing that is to create a safe space for the feminine. When we do that, what naturally will emerge, and I see this in workshops a lot, although in your experience, it didn't quite happen, but in workshops a lot, what I see.
No, everyone else was like,
it
was wild. I'm like, this is like partly my work.
Yeah, absolutely. So what will happen is when she feels, her nervous system feels safe, she basically feels safe to go into her parasympathetic. Then whatever emotions that have been trapped will come to the surface, whatever desires, whatever energy needs to move through her will come to the surface, and then the masculine gets to be a container for her healing and expression.
Mhm.
That's a way that I would say we can align with the healing of the feminine,
Mhm.
right? And the sacred feminine, I would argue, is just like the sacred masculine is consciousness and awareness. The sacred feminine in me, in you, in all of us, is the unconditional expression of love.
Mhm.
Right? So the two things that there's infinite amounts of: consciousness and love.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. And then I loved that, this was like my favorite, prioritizing depth over comfort. I love that.
yeah,
I love that. I'm like, oh, I do that.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
love that concept.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a big this last generation of men, particularly since the invention of the iPhone.
Yeah.
Not to make it all about the phone, but the internet in general. Like my generation didn't have that till I was
Mhm.
30. So that added a layer of distraction and dopamine addiction and comfort and basically, just ability to check out. And so almost always comfort numbs awareness, and comfort becomes an addictive cycle, right?
Mhm.
And challenge expands awareness. So even just challenging a man to breathe for 30 minutes and follow his thoughts sharpens awareness. So comfort dulls awareness, challenge sharpens awareness.
Mm.
And challenging a man to be, or I mean, I have transgender people in my programs too, challenging anybody who wants to cultivate their masculine
Mhm.
to deepen expands awareness.
Mhm. How much within that, when you have transgender people within your groups, is them tapping into their own internal balance
Mm,
between them
mm,
and understanding their own specific energetics? Maybe it's a little bit of both,
mm.
and them sort of reframing these toxic or incorrect ideals and then understanding the sort of sacred masculine and feminine.
Yeah. Well, that would be my goal for everybody,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
regardless of
yeah, yeah.
sexuality, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
each of us has this we were sort of born into and received a certain, let's call it, I talk about it as a spectrum from uber masculine to uber feminine. Each of us was born on that
Mhm.
spectrum, and it's our essence. It doesn't change a lot. It's like our operating system.
Mhm.
So whether you're a transgender, human, or you're a man or a woman, whatever, you still are born on some spot that's
Mhm.
kind of like your natural starting point. From there, you get to choose what capacities, like what artistic capabilities, let's say, you get to expand.
Mhm.
And I think that everybody, the first part is to find out like where you are, like what is your essence,
Mhm.
like what is your essence? I, for example, my spiritual essence is very masculine. Like I prefer stillness to movement.
Mhm.
Feel much more comfortable. My emotional experience is more feminine. Like I prefer heart open, full emotional expression to, my sexual experience. I much rather be the penetrator and the director of the sexual experience. So it's masculine. My physical experience, like I'm just kind of like whatever. I'm like a tank. I don't really care so much about looks or things like that. Um, so so um, so my physical experience is masculine. So we each have these
Yeah.
different parts, right? And so finding that out is a really important piece for every human, right? You might, like, I have a feminine mind. I'll bounce around. You probably heard me in
Mhm.
this conversation. I'll go, oh, here, here,
Yeah.
here. Yeah. Right. So some people have masculine minds where it's like point A, point
Mhm.
B, point C, point D,
Mhm.
right? That's not me.
Mhm. That's how you
So
podcast, though.
what's that?
So you can be. The podcast for me is that feminine of like, we're gonna go here and then we're gonna go
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you have a feminine mind, right?
Mhm.
You probably have, you probably, once you addressed all these different
Mhm.
areas, you'll probably find your feminine in most of them,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know? And then you get to choose, oh, okay, I'm feminine this way. How much awareness do I need to cultivate? Or how much presence, for example, to hold my own partner's feminine, do I need to cultivate? And you get to choose, like, oh, so I can do some presence practice. I can do some grounding practice. I can do da-da-da-da. And you can expand your capacity yogically. And everybody, I think, is getting to the place, because relationships are now art. Like, relationships are not about security. They're not about, like,
Safety.
propagating the species, right? They're not about safety. Yeah, you're right. So relationships are now, for the first time ever, these totally unique personal art forms that we get to play with. And you see it on social media, like everybody's version of their art, right? You see it in their relationships, right? And we get to expand our capacity as artists, right?
I love that. Something I wanted to explore with you is something we were talking about with Danielle Laporte the other day. Love her.
Yeah, I love Danielle.
I know you guys are homies.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the concept, and I've been exploring this on myself, and I'm exploring it in real time, trying to understand it. The idea of having an open heart and being open-hearted, but also there's like the concept of boundaries, kind of getting more momentum and traction in the world. So what do you think about those two concepts? Like, how do they work together? Do they not work together? Are they misunderstood? What do you think?
Yeah, I think they're highly misunderstood, right? So let's start with open-heartedness. Most people think of open-heartedness as this concept, right? Like it's a ethereal concept, but it's literally a feeling your own heart. So the moment that you use the heart to filter the energy that's going through you, your emotions, your thoughts, your sensations, that energy is purified with love, right? When it's disconnected from the heart, when it bypasses the heart and just comes out of the head, it tends to be attached to childhood wounding patterns, right? So the bypass for that is the heart, literally the physical heart. So when I say often to my students, I'll say, okay, take that need, like I need to be recognized, or I need to be seen, or I need to be safe, right? That's a big one for women. I need to be safe. So take that need out of your head and literally press it down into the tissue of your heart, and then relax it. Let it expand through your chest. Like, just feel the need to be safe. Let the tissues of your heart get really full with it. You feel that? Yeah. And in that moment, do you feel safe?
I feel like I have a good idea of what I'm going to do later.
Okay, good. So you feel safe, right? And that is heart. So heartfulness to me is as important as heart openness. So being full in your own heart, meaning taking your awareness, the masculine, and putting it into your heart, the feminine, creates a sacred union internally, which then allows you to be felt and seen and express yourself in ways that are much more artful. So the heart openness piece. And also, you could think of it this way. I mean, this is just, I nerd out on this stuff all the time, right? So it's like, how do you actually express heart openness physically? You could imagine the heart like a big satellite dish, just walking down the street, just blasting people with love, right? So you could feel the pulse of love that is the eternal feminine and blast it through your heart like a big satellite dish. People would feel it. People would feel it. So that's heart openness. I think it's literal. To make your question really simple, like literally open your fucking heart like a flower would open, or like a big dish. So that with, the second part of your question was boundaries. Okay. That can all happen while you're setting boundaries. What tends to happen when people set boundaries is that they retreat and set boundaries. So I could say, I could actually feel my own heart. I could feel my own heart, and I could say, it doesn't take long, it's 3 fucking breaths. She says something that pisses me off. It hurts my feelings. I breathe into my heart 3 times, and then I look at her and say, I don't like that when you talk like that. Please don't do that. I'm setting a boundary.
Mhm.
But I'm not setting it from a place that's closed-hearted. I'm actually, she can feel my heart in the
Mhm.
transmission of it. So heart-centered, let's call it heart-centered boundary setting,
Mhm.
literally involves the feeling of your own heart while you're setting a container, which is the masculine.
Mhm.
So boundaries are the masculine.
Mhm.
I think I talk about this in the book. Boundaries are the masculine. They're a container for the flow of emotion, the feminine.
Mhm.
So boundaries are absolutely necessary. What happens is that people will tend to disconnect from their heart and wonder why their boundaries create disconnection. So,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like
and it's an art form.
yeah,
Boundaries are an art form. Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Kendra Kunoff, again,
I'm
I think you
gonna
wrote her name down.
yeah,
Kendra's wonderful
okay,
around boundaries.
okay.
Yeah.
I would love to talk to her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's such a balance where it's like originally I'm like boundary, and I set boundaries unconsciously when I was younger. And then it's like as I get older, I'm like, ooh, how much are these boundaries like a place where I'm not willing to go in my heart and have a conversation?
Mm.
I'm not willing to, I'm scared to speak my truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm doing these things.
Mm.
Like boundaries are so powerful, but I think we're sort of getting lost with them.
Yeah.
And I've even realized too, like, we have such a conversation about it, but recently I had a boundary set with me and I
Mhm.
was like, oh, this is interesting. I'm like,
Mm.
okay, boundary set. But I didn't understand why. And I'm such a why person. Like once I understand why of anything, I'm like, great, I'm
Mhm.
set. I
Mhm.
didn't understand why. So I was like, I'm going to Google how to accept a boundary.
Mm.
Like, what are the rules? How do I accept this boundary? So I was
Mm.
Googling, I'm like, how do I accept this boundary? There was nothing.
Wow.
There's like nothing out there about
Right.
accepting a boundary,
Right.
but there's so much out there about giving a boundary or creating a boundary.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, this is obviously a problem.
Yeah.
If every single person is creating boundaries, putting up boundaries, but we're not reciprocating them,
Yeah. Yeah.
then tons of people are just boundaried up.
That's so funny. It's really interesting.
So
Yeah, they're boundaried up. That's a good way to put it. They're boundaried up, which is, here's the way to check. Is it a closure?
yes.
Right? So
Mhm.
there's a way to be boundaried up and heart relaxed.
Mhm.
There's a way to be, and it almost always starts with elongated, deeper breath, a softening of your heart, a softening of your eyes. Hey, I don't like that. That didn't feel good.
Mhm.
Ouch. Ouch. Just
Mhm.
ouch is a really good boundary,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
And if the boundary is a closure, then chances are, you're defending, right?
Mhm.
Of course, a boundary is a defense, but you're defending to the point of shutting the door
Mhm.
on the person you maybe love.
Mhm.
I'm sure there are times, in fact, I know there are times when hardcore boundaries are absolutely needed and a heart closure is absolutely needed.
Mhm.
But most of the time, especially in romantic relationships or people we love, that capacity to do both,
Mhm.
that's the art,
Yeah.
you know?
Boundaries are needed.
How
For
can
me.
you set up? Okay, here's a challenge for your audience. How can you set a boundary
Mhm.
where the person receiving the boundary feels deeply loved?
I know.
Yeah.
I think bringing in the ouch is a good one. I know I'm trying to figure that out as well. I'm actually
Well, how about, baby, I want to be, I want to be, I want to relax in your presence. I want to feel
Mhm.
really, I want to feel like I can just bring my heart to you.
Mhm.
But when you ...
Mhm.
I can't do that,
Yeah, okay.
you know?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Because I even think about it with friends more so. Because we're in my marriage, we're figuring out the boundary thing too. Like
Mhm.
he's more now understanding boundaries, and it's kind of fun
Mhm.
because it's like, oh wow, okay,
Mhm.
I like it.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, I enjoy this.
Mhm.
You don't want to do this. Now it's clear. I understand.
Mhm.
I just always want to understand. But
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about just like as we sort of come to the close, a lot of our audience are going to want to have their partner, like they're going to be so jazzed. They're like, yes, I want my partner to read this
Yeah.
now. I'm like
Yeah.
so excited. So what do we do? Because, we don't want to be in a situation where like all of them are buying the books and being like, we're going to read
Yeah.
this together. Like, what's that balance?
Yeah. I like the idea of so a good way to get to the masculine nervous system is to talk about nutrition or
Wow.
nourishment. and say, hey, this guy talks a lot about how men can nourish themselves and like refill so that they're not so burdened by relationship and life. I like what he had to say, check it out. Um, if it becomes a thing about like a criticism, like this guy, if there's the subtext of, hey, this guy's going to tell you how you can love me better, or even worse, like, fuck me better, that's not going to go over very well. The masculine ego is still very, much a thing. However, if it's presented as the solution, like, a good part of what I talk about is nourishment, right? So this guy talks a lot about nourishment in this book and how men can nourish themselves and how to set boundaries. And I think that's the way I would say for women to offer this book, or they can just, have the guys, again, it's listen to this podcast, listen to this guy, it's really, unless it's presenting something that I'm pretty clear, every man that I know feels some version of this.
Yeah.
Feels some version of, I'm burdened by life, there's not enough time, I feel distracted and numb, I feel like disconnected from the core of who I am. And I think that's something that most men will relate to,
Yeah, and this is the antidote for that. Would you suggest that women do the reading and work with them, or no?
I think they could. I think what they could talk about, and I hope this does happen. I didn't think about this when I wrote the book, but I really hope this happens. I hope women read this book and actually apply it to their own masculine.
Yeah, 100%.
I hope that they read the book and go like, oh, if I wanted to cultivate a deeper sense, like, for example, a lot of women will go through workshops and they'll be like, okay, now I'm just wide open and like, how do I ground myself? And that's where I'll say, do these masculine practices. So women are just learning now the value of sovereignty, of how masculine practice, like depth, grounding, breath, expansion of awareness, that actually creates more sovereignty so they can hold their own feminine. They can hold their own wild heart, let's call it wild heart, right? And so I hope that women actually read this, and as opposed to seeing it as something he should do, they actually apply it to themselves and cultivate their own masculine in whatever way they want to.
Would it help women be better friends with other women? Because then they would be able to like hold that for women?
Yeah, the world needs, like, you got to think the world needs, we've never actually had, except for maybe some Tibet. Think of maybe some areas of Tibet or some cultures where where a sacred masculine was really cultivated.
Yes.
There's never been in the West sacred masculine cultivation.
Yeah.
Never, really. I mean, nor sacred feminine, really. It's all kind of like for the masculine gaze and for the masculine desire. So we're talking about introducing concepts here that are really new, like totally new to our culture, the Western culture. So men, the masculine can serve everybody. The masculine is basically your capacity to be aware of everything that's happening and then decide, how to create liberation, how to liberate her heart, how to liberate his heart. If you have a friend whose emotionality is challenging for you, your capacity to ground or tussle or play or hold, I think that would benefit women, with their friendships. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when we were talking. I'm like, I wonder what the cultural, global significance of this is, because it feels like such a Western ideal and issue in the way that it's happened. And yeah, it is curious to think about how across the world this sort of balance is imbalanced, or
Totally.
But I guess when I think about globally, I would even think there's actually a graver imbalance in some of the most violent and dangerous places.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's still very much alive in the Middle East. The toxic masculine is still very much alive in the various parts of the world.
Yeah.
So it's really this new. It's like a pea shoot, You
Yeah.
think about it, and yet it's, read the Tao Te Ching.
Yeah.
It was right there in ancient
Mhm.
China, go back and read yogi texts
Mhm.
from 5,000 years ago, right?
Mhm.
It's there. So we're just now, and this is one of the things that David brought into the world that I think is so valuable, right? Is this frame. He took these concepts that were very ethereal and he came up with some books that really laid
Mhm.
it out clearly. And then people like me and others and, are kind of finding our own way to
Mhm.
innovate with it.
Mhm.
But, yeah, it's new.
Mhm.
It's so new. And
Mhm.
I think when I have women in workshops actually do masculine practice, like get really still with each other, go really deep with each other, like really sharpen each other's consciousness, they fucking love it.
Mhm.
They love it. They love this, like being so connected to something that's infinite, that like there's a nervous system thing that
Mhm.
happens that's really beautiful to watch.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping that will be the experience that women have with this book,
Mm. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Last question. What was
Mm.
like the most surprising part that you wrote? Like, what was the part that you were like, whoa, I didn't know that this was gonna
Mm.
come through, or I didn't know that this
Mm.
wasn't gonna be included, or maybe even a part that scared you?
Yeah, I think the part about death, maybe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think I got really, because I've wrote this
Mhm.
after Claire died,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and I think the probably the piece that I think will be most cringed at. I mean, I wrote a piece on taboo, so I think that might be a close second, but um, will be that feel death as the masculine, right? And I think there's an exercise I give in the book where I have men meditate out and feel everything that's dying, within a mile or 2 miles, and just literally like connect, not to the suffering or the morbidity, but just to feel that transition from vital to from existent to non-existent,
Mm-hmm.
and meditate on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that'll probably freak some people out. I'm not sure. Uh, I'm not sure where that came from.
Mm-hmm.
I think a trip to the redwoods. I
Mm-hmm.
was feeling like how everything's living and dying at the same time, and
Yeah.
we focus on everything that's living.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, look
Yeah.
how beautiful, but feeling everything that's dying at the same time just relaxes something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why do you think it relaxes?
Because it's
Truth?
still,
Mm-hmm.
because it's we're in this world, I think. And this goes to your previous question about what women can get from masculine practice. Like, this ability to feel deep stillness is a human condition. I think we're all craving more of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're so in experience. We're so in consumption.
Yeah.
We're so like,
Mm-hmm.
more ayahuasca, more chocolate,
Mm-hmm.
more,
Mm-hmm.
goods, more
Mm-hmm.
sex.
Yes.
And this ability to really cherish stillness, I think,
Mm-hmm.
is something that hopefully people will get.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
We're so grateful. So grateful for you.
Thank you.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank
The
you.
book is out August 2nd, so it'll be out now, and you guys can all get it. And then we have like 4 other episodes we've done with you.
Yeah, right.
Isn't that
That's
crazy?
right.
I
Yeah,
think
we've
the
done a few.
first one we did like 5 years ago. We were at Lindsay's
Yeah,
in her
I remember.
apartment.
Yeah.
It was hot. It was like,
And we were at our kitchen table.
yeah,
I
no
remember
air
that.
conditioning.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
So I'm just so excited to see you grow. I'm excited about this
Thank
book.
you. Thank you, Chris. It's
Thank you
good
so
to see you
much.
too.
Good to
Yeah.
see you. All
Yeah.
right. Bye.
Thank you, John Wineland, for being on the podcast 4 times. You're the best. We love you. We adore you. We honor and appreciate your work so much, and what you've taught us and guided us through, we will remember forever. I hope you loved this rerun of John Wineland's episode 536 on Almost 30. We're going to be dropping these rerun episodes throughout the end of the year as a little bonus, so stay tuned for that. We love you here at Almost 30 so much. Our OG listeners, our new listeners, this is more than just a podcast. It's a community, it's a movement, it's a remembering, coming back to yourself in more ways than one. You deserve that. We love you. We're proud of you. We'll see you on the next episode.